And Marie, am I wrong? Nothing gets the blood boiling more than a good old-fashioned debate, and there just happens to be one going on tonight.
Yeah, there's going to be one tonight, and Tom Jordan and Kevin Dietz are going to be the moderators of that debate tonight. This is with, of course, the GOP candidates vying for the spot to face off against Governor Whitmer come November. And we wanted to learn a little bit more about this field of candidates and what they have to do to really make their mark tonight, and really what's ahead in November. David Dulio is a great person to check in with. David Dulio is a political science professor at Oakland University. Hi, David. Glad you could join us tonight.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Great. Now, tonight we know there's going to be this debate. Funny enough, Politico had an article on our primary here in Michigan, and the title was "The GOP's Messiest Primary." They weren't kidding. I mean, we had somebody arrested for activities on January 6th. We had a snafu involving petition signatures, and now you've got a field of candidates that are all trying to make their names known.
Right, and Michigan politics is always very interesting, but this primary season has been something special and really unlike any other one before.
Yeah, for sure. So tonight, let's talk about the candidates that remain now: Tudor Dixon, Ryan Kelly, Garrett Soldano, Kevin Rinke, and Ralph Rembrandt. As we look at those candidates, all of them are vying for to make themselves aligned with the former President Donald Trump. Do you think that's a good strategy?
In the primary, absolutely. I think the Trump endorsement can help candidates in a primary, especially in certain parts of Michigan, not all over the state. For example, in Oakland County, that may not be the greatest tag to have, but certainly in places like Macomb County and up north, rural areas of the state, definite bonus.
David, here's the deal. The primary coming up in a mere 6 days. The 5 candidates that'll be on that stage in Pontiac tonight, suffice to say, they don't have a lot of statewide name recognition. So I would imagine that puts even more of an emphasis on what they discuss tonight. Do you agree with that?
I think one of the problems that whoever comes out of the primary next Tuesday faces as they mount a challenge to Governor Whitmer is that name identification or lack thereof that you mentioned. I think anything that they can do to maybe create some fireworks tonight that will get some attention will help them, hopefully for their case, for their case, the voters, that it will help them gain more votes, but also in terms of building that name recognition with folks who may not have heard of them across the state. A great example of that is, you mentioned the arrest of Mr. Kelly. His fundraising numbers went way up after that incident, after that arrest occurred. His name recognition undoubtedly increased after something like that.
Who do you think is going to be, out of this field of players, is going to be the most formidable candidate to go against Gretchen Whitmer?
Well, you don't have to ask me that. We can take the answer right from the news in the last couple days that Democratic Governors Association is going to spend about $2 million here in Michigan to attack Tudor Dixon. I think that says a lot, that she is the candidate they would like to avoid in the general election, even though Governor Whitmer has an incredible funding advantage, right? She raised about $9.5 million so far, or in this last quarter. Tremendous fundraising efforts by her campaign that puts her in a strong position to face whoever comes out of this. But I think it says something that the Democratic Governors Association is going to spend quite a bit of scarce resources on try to impact the Republican primary.
Well, and David, here is the realism that the 5 candidates are looking at tonight. In a very recent WDIV Detroit News poll, 55.3% of Michigan voters approve of Gretchen Whitmer's performance as governor, compared to 40.1% who disapprove. So that being said, the 5 involved in that debate tonight, I am sure, will mention her early and often, and probably not in very positive ways.
Absolutely, Steve. I think the gloves are going to come off tonight, and it's going to be interesting to see, where the candidates aim those punches. Do they aim them at fellow Republicans, which they're going to have to do some of that because, as you mentioned, those poll results are pretty tight. And while I think Tudor Dixon is probably ahead right now, it's anybody's game. So how much do they spend time taking shots at one another, and how much time do they spend going after Governor Whitmer?
So let's talk for a minute about Tudor Dixon, because you talked about how the Governors Association of America, wants to put some cash behind making sure she doesn't win in November if she were to win this primary. But what is it about Tudor Dixon that makes her like someone to really watch in all this?
I think many would look at her candidacy as one that maybe is most fit, it has the best fit for a general election campaign here in Michigan. I think it's fair to say, and she's got some ties to the DeVos family.
Right.
In any normal Republican primary, that would be a real benefit. But that's getting her labeled as a rhino, which is astounding to me. That an association with the DeVos family, somebody who's been involved in Michigan politics for decades, right, gets you labeled a rhino.
Yeah, Betsy DeVos was also the education secretary under Trump.
Under President Trump, right? So it's really an interesting dynamic. But I think that tells me that those other candidates are, and I think that they would probably agree, are coming at Tudor Dixon from the right, coming at her from a more conservative place on that ideological spectrum, if you will. So, I think that many would look at Tudor Dixon as maybe a more moderate candidate, and you can sense some questioning in my own voice there on that statement. But it's I think, and because she may not want to say that, but I think that's how a lot of reasonable people would handicap that field.
What do you foresee, David, as being the hot button issues in the debate tonight? Being Michigan and all, I imagine roads will be touched upon, but obviously abortion has become a very red hot topic in this state, in this nation. The economy in general, jobs, that kind of thing. Anything else you think this debate will veer towards?
I think you hit three really important ones, and the economy, without a doubt, right? That's at the top of everybody's mind. The economy generally, certainly gas prices, inflation, when we go to the grocery store, when we go anywhere these days, we see the impacts of that. I think you might hear them talk about the potential for the second quarter of negative growth being reported tomorrow, which would technically put us into a recession, although the White House seems to want to change that definition these days. And I think you will hear them talk about the abortion issue. I think the road issue could come up as an attack on Governor Whitmer, given her campaign line from 4 years ago. I think that you may hear many of those other candidates, aside from Tudor Dixon, talk about President Trump, talk about Tudor Dixon's ties to the DeVos family as a way to try to take her down a notch.
Absolutely. And so tonight, what are you going to be watching for? I always like to ask experts like yourself or good political watchers, what are you going to be specifically looking for in this debate?
I'm going to be watching for the issues that the candidates bring up, and how they respond to the questions that Tom and Kevin will ask them. I'm going to look for, in those two areas, I'm going to look for how they are going to create contrast with their opponents. On some issues, it'll be easy. On others, it'll be more difficult, more subtle contrast that will have to be drawn out to try to give voters a choice heading into primary day next Tuesday.
Yeah. I understand, David, this could be the very first political debate in our great state where the candidates will all be wearing "Hello, my name is" stickers.
Anything to do to boost that name recognition, Steve. If that's going to do it, I'm sure they're all in.
Yeah, you got that right.
Appreciate your time, my friend. Thank you so much, David.
Thanks, David.
It's my pleasure. Have a good evening.
All right, David Dulio, political science professor, Oakland University.